Itinerary-wise, we're going to look at where a chatbot might add value. Then we'll look at some ideas around choosing the right technology partner. But it's unlikely you'd want to build your own chatbot technology, unless your business is already in that sphere, if your IT department's already done that, for example. And then we'll look at some ways thinking about, how to think about that experience for the candidate or the HR person, the onboardee, to see how we keep it nice and friendly. And then we'll look at this part. This part's actually the critical one that you guys will control. I'm assuming you're a HR professional or some type of in-house recruiter. And that section around gathering the data, that's a sort of internal non-technical project, part of the project that you or one of your colleagues would likely control, but it's absolutely critical. We've got some good ideas to help you do that in an efficient way. And then finishing up with analysing your chatbot's performance. Okay, so let's think about where a chatbot can add value. I've got a few use cases here, but I like to think at the start it's about choosing a simple problem. So we're thinking, what's this type of areas, and you can think beyond this as well yourself. The three examples I'm going to give you, they're all at what the sort of industry terminology calls an FAQ bot, a frequently asked questions bot. They're basically simple chatbots that can answer questions. Yeah, you've given them a certain amount of information and you're giving it out to a certain user base. So in this case, we've got maybe a bunch of onboardees that are, in the process of joining our business or organization. Maybe they've already recently joined. And we hear lots and lots of questions from these individuals, and they've probably got even more. Some might be too shy to ask questions. So this onboarding bot is going to come in and help us with this challenge. So yeah, it's going to support employees, and we know these new employees have lots of questions to ask. Some might be embarrassed to ask. Some might just prefer to just fire a load of questions at the chatbot, knowing that it never gets offended. It never thinks or rolls their eyes or anything else like this. And it's also sort of hard as well for your employees in that world, your new employees, to retain all the information you provide them. And they might feel a bit weird about asking the same. I know you've told me this already, but so that can be quite a nice option for you as well. And you may not, as a business, have an onboarding portal, because some organizations, we sell, an onboarding solution as part of our software. So some organizations, provide an onboarding portal to their staff with, documents all in the right place and sort of timetables and introductions and organizational charts and all this sort of stuff. But equally, if you don't have that, then maybe a chatbot might be able to provide some part of that solution. Another example, HR employee bot. I've been speaking to someone recently about this, where basically she's a HR director and just says, my team just get inundated with questions. They're fairly low-level basic questions, and we struggle to efficiently answer them all. Employees obviously struggle to retain that information and maybe come back to you again and say, where is that form? Or how do I do this? If you haven't got like a good solid intranet, or maybe you have, maybe that's what the chatbot's there to do. Say, like, okay, go over here, the instructions are there, read it, and it will explain all this to you. Or maybe the chatbot reads that page and just literally regurgitates it to that person, which is what the human was doing anyway. Maybe also you think about it, you might have scenarios here where in this case, there are HR questions that need to be asked outside of office hours, like someone who works shifts, or even someone who's got, I need to report sick for work today. It's 6:30 in the morning. My child has just thrown up on me as I'm driving them to sort of, nanny to look after them for the day or wherever they go. If it's the first time you're ever reporting sick, it might be easier to ask the chatbot, look, how do I do this? It's outside of hours. What time do I need to have done it by if I'm starting at 9 o'clock? And you can ask these questions and the chatbot would know the answer. And I'm going to show you this live, by the way. We've got some live examples of the HR employee bot in particular. And in careers bot, this is one that sits on your careers site. We're now talking about job seekers. We know that your either careers page or website might not have all of the information, might not have a lot of information, might have just, the bare minimum, some basics about what it's like to work for you, that sort of stuff. We've got, I'll just show you here on our careers site for us, we've got an FAQs page. It's probably a little bit out of date. It's not terrible, but it might be a little bit out of date. But equally, what we're going to do with our careers bot chatbot, which we're going to our careers bot, which we're going to launch soon on our career site, we're going to give it lots and lots more questions than that. And now we wouldn't want to put an FAQ page with 200 questions on it. Even if we could work out a way to let the user navigate, it would be a bit much. But having all those questions stored in the chatbot, and we'll probably lose this page. And if people go FAQs, we'll just send them over and say, look, hey, I'm the chatbot. I can answer your questions. What questions have you got? So that's our careers bot, as we're calling it. Okay. Now I'm going to go live and show you an example of a careers bot. Just give me 1 second here because I didn't quite log in before I got started. So let me just log in over here. I'm going to show you now. This is Dante AI. I'll talk about chatbot platforms a bit later. So, and let me just share this bot and I'll bring it out. So I'm going to show you behind the scenes how we create them, but I just want for the time being to I should also, as I'm on the page, I might as well mention to you, this is actually how you sort of embed the actual chatbot. So you give it to your web designer, website manager, and say, put this bit of code in the header of your website, and the chatbot will just pop up in the bottom right corner. Now, we're not going to do that. We're just going to put it as a direct link for the time being for the purposes of this. And this chatbot, if I remind myself, the hireful careers bot, has been trained on the hireful careers website. Nothing extra really, just that. So I could ask it, and it hasn't got very good. We haven't set it up correct. It's got silly questions at the front. We can control that. So we can say, I can say like, what's it like to work at hireful? Really basic question. And it provides lots of information about that. So what is the recruitment process like? And it will answer that for you in some shape or form, because we've got some of that information already on our career site. If you don't have that information on your career site, which we're going to get to later, you need to put it into some sort of document and feed that into the chatbot. And I'm not sure it likes that question. I might have to refresh it, maybe. Let's just copy, refresh, and we'll start all over again. How can I help you? Well, it doesn't like that. So do you do assessments? This is my last one. Right, I think it's really struggling, so that's not great. So not the biggest thumbs up for Dante. I have got Dante down as a potential provider you might look at. It is quite basic, it's very, very cost effective, but quite a basic chatbot. And we'll look into some of the more advanced stuff you might want to do. But yeah, that's not the best example to get started with. Normally works perfectly fine. Okay, so yeah, choosing the right chatbot. I wanted to, now we've done a couple of examples of like, we spoke over a couple of examples of the type of thing that we can use. Let's talk about some of the platforms that I've been investigating, because just to give you a bit of background here, we are rolling out our own chatbot solution. So we're looking at these platforms, we're exploring these platforms ourselves. So here are some requirements you might want to think about. You know, obviously security. You don't want, when I think about security, the problems I would see, it's not that likely, I don't think, but we always want to be secure, is someone was able to log into your chatbot platform and maybe switch out some of the content. So now the chatbot would answer in an offensive or rude way or something like that. So you absolutely want security. From a data security, the actual content you put in there, you know, you've got to think, well, how confidential is this? Even if we look at like the HR employee bot, that's largely been trained on like your policies, you know, the employee handbook, you know, and information that's really shared across your organization. So it's not likely to be confidential information. Yeah, it's more policies and stuff such as this. If it's the job seeker bot or onboarding bot, you know, these are pretty, you know, these are more, no, the job seeker bot is very public. So anything that's in it is the job seeker bot will be sharing more broadly in its chats. So there isn't huge confidentiality issues from this. So let's have data security as a you know, something we want to be asking questions about, but and you will speak to your IT department about. But one of the things your IT department, you need to, if you can explain what content's going in and the type of content, then that might put them at ease in regards to it's not that serious. Are there GDPR considerations? Well, if your content doesn't include the names of people, email addresses of people, so sometimes you might have, and I wouldn't largely advise this, oh, we've got, if you ask that question, maybe you should email so-and-so, Sarah, over in this department, because she can talk to you about it. So the chatbot could say that to you. I don't think it'd be good, because obviously Sarah moves on, then you need to update the chatbot. So it's not very, what they call evergreen. You're better off putting like a generic email address, like email learning and develop, email learning at, name of your company, and that goes into the learning and development department if you've got a question in that area. So there's more sensible ways that you can do that. And Pip has asked, when uploading policies, is there a risk that the chatbot will share these with other users outside of your organization? That is a very good question, Pip. None of you should be asking that. None of the providers none of the providers we work with use your data for training data. So and I think that's largely what you're asking for. They might share, I think the question could more broadly say, does it share it with anyone else? No, it doesn't. But when you ask questions in the ChatGPT, it will actually share that information. It uses the questions as part of its training. So if you shared a job advert or a policy, that is then in ChatGPT and it can be shared. And there have been some examples of people uploading confidential information to ChatGPT, and then it's built that into its learning. So if I just show you on ChatGPT here, you've got very good eyesight. Because I'm on a paid for model, you can sort of see at the bottom there, we have a paid for ChatGPT subscription, only about $50 a month for the actual Teams edition. So we have a workspace, and it says workspace chats aren't used to train on models. So that's the type of thing. Hopefully that's what you're sort of referring to, Pip, is the sort of more, the data you put in is used by the AI in future to sort of train, and then that could be regurgitated out to anyone else later on. It's a very, very good question, and one I didn't specifically cover off. So yeah, that's almost guaranteed, but it's not guaranteed. So let's make sure we ask it, but that should almost be guaranteed when we think about how these chatbots are setting up their systems. Obviously, 24/7 availability. We've seen that Dante might be having a little wobble at the moment. Multilingual support. These should be these are all basic requirements because of the way that generative AI lands. So people have built technology on top of the technology that ChatGPT and other systems are using. So understanding your question, understanding the policy document, whatever you give it to it, the AI understands that. But what it can also do is it can understand it across a multitude of languages, normally up to about 100 different languages. So if you think about that, that's, that can be quite good to sort of answer, help people along in multitude, like if someone's a job seeker and they want to ask a question in Polish, they can ask the question in Polish and we'll be able to read the English content and provide them back the answer in Polish. Branding. You might have some subtle branding options you want. I'll show you a couple of them with the Dante tool. So most of my stuff I'm going to show you with today, like the actual stuff I've done, is with Dante because that's a really basic tool to use. So that's the easiest one for me to roll out. When we're looking at building our chatbots, we're actually going to be using some actual chatbot consultants because it gets a little bit beyond me. I am not technical. I'd say I'm digitally literate. So on that note, if you're looking at chatbots within your business and you're, let's say, a HR person recruiter, it's probably my level of digital literacy, then perhaps you're probably going to lean on some skills maybe in-house, like, we've got someone in our team who can learn these tools, or maybe there's a chatbot project that's already happened in your business that you can lean on those skills, or maybe you get some sort of freelance consultant to actually build this out for you. But Dante, as I'll show you, is quite simple. I can change the branding on it, do some basics. I'll show you that. And then personalization. Can you get the chatbot to reflect your tone of voice and values? Yeah, because if you've worked with ChatGPT, which I guess some of you have, where you've asked it to write me an email or write me a job spec, use a friendly and formal tone of voice, you sort of see, or you say use a formal tone of voice, you can sort of see how it answers or deals with those tasks in a slightly different way, and the tone of voice changes. So you would also probably want to be telling your chatbot what type of tone of voice to use. Perhaps to be, I looked at that first example of Dante, it was quite a long paragraph it gave. We could tell it to use short paragraph in its answers, short sentences, which just make it easier for the person to read. Yeah, and maybe tell it to be succinct in their answers within reason. But then you can test that out. So like, be succinct and see what the answers are. Go, do you know what? That wasn't as good as when we just left it answer it using its own intuition. And then obviously most systems will have analytics and reporting, and I'll talk about that at the end. So some more advanced stuff. You may want this. I can see this being relevant in like that HR employee bot example. I think it's unlikely that you'd use it for the job seeker bot, because I think with job seekers a lot of the time we're almost saying, look, we've got too much going on. We've got too many applicants hitting our website, too many people. So let's have the chatbot maybe try and answer their questions and deliver a better experience, because we can't put like a recruitment hotline number there because it would just ring off the hook all day long, perhaps. But so it's unlikely that, you know, a candidate that's, you know, got additional questions when they're on the careers site, you're going to offer like a live handoff to a human. So they hit a certain bump and go, oh, I don't know the answer to that. Would you like me to redirect this conversation to one of my human colleagues? And that's the type of thing we're talking about here. Sometimes you'll see you can go in, if you get a chatbot as a user, you can say immediately, can I speak to a human? And it immediately, some of the good ones will say immediately, yes, I'll pass you across to a human now. And then you're on live chat with a human. So something you might want to think about, the most likely scenario of what we've discussed there is obviously the onboardee or the actual employee. Unfortunately, these are higher value people than just the job seeker, without being rude to them. These are people that you're employing, you've got more invested in them, therefore you can probably add a bit more support to them. So if someone is logged in, if it is during the working hours or whatever it is, then the chatbot will know that, or the more sophisticated ones would, and then it can offer that. And then if it can't offer that, it might offer the alternative of, would you like me to redirect this query and get someone to come back to you at a later date with an answer, in which case it gathers an email address. Okay. Okay, and yeah, that's the other option, gather an email. Other requirements is WhatsApp. You know, now some organizations might go, WhatsApp, no, thank you. You know, there's lots of scammy people on WhatsApp and it doesn't fit our brand or whatever. So it's down to you. You'll have pros and cons of it within your own organization. I'm going to tell you a couple of pros as I see it though. It's easy to engage with, yeah, because people know what it is. They can simply click, if they're on their mobile device, and it'll pop up as a little WhatsApp in the bottom of the screen, and they just click on that and they're in WhatsApp and they're having a conversation with you, with your chatbot, okay? Perfectly easy to do. The other benefit of that easy engagement is it's actually easy to re-engage with. You know, if that's like Tesco careers bot or Tesco graduate careers bot, and then like 3 months later that person goes, oh, you know, maybe they didn't apply or they went traveling for a year, let's say, and then they're thinking, well, I actually do want to get back into a graduate scheme. You know, and they'll search their phone and go graduate and up or pop that conversation. They can jump straight back in and start having a conversation again with that careers bot. So re-engaging is quite good. So I could see WhatsApp being relevant for maybe the HR employee bot, things like that. There is obviously some elements of security now that are more, so your IT department might want to have a closer look at WhatsApp in regards to elements of security, because it does open things up because anyone can share that phone number and things like this. So it's not quite as secure as like a secure link where you could sort of put that internally. Like imagine you've got an onboarding portal that someone has to log into, you could put the onboarding chatbot within that. So, you know, it's not available to anyone else. They have to be logged in order to access that. So there's elements of security here as well to think about. But I think WhatsApp, for sheer ease of use, I think a lot of people, if one of your key things on the project is, I want all of our staff to use this, then that might be a really easy way to do that. Okay. I've got the same image there, so apologies, but ignore that image. One of the things you might want to think about, this is more like future-proofing your product, is to be able to change up the AI or the way the actual correct term is the large language model. You may have read or seen, if you're keeping up to date with AI, that OpenAI, the people behind ChatGPT, have just launched a new model in the last couple of weeks. It's all about reasoning, and it can pass an IQ test at 120, which is smarter than the average human, and all these types of things. But then there's an arms race going on. Then Claude or Grok, the Elon Musk's version or something, they're all sort of competing. And actually, it could be for what you want to achieve, the task you want to achieve, then actually a new model just comes up that's absolutely brilliant, that can do it in a really perfect way or whatever else it does, and you might want to transfer to that. So when you look at the platforms, you want to be thinking, what models do they offer? That will give, if they offer lots, that will give you a good indication that in the future they'll offer lots of models as well. Certainly the more popular ones, okay? And that might also save you money as well if you have to pay. Sometimes you have to put your own account with the AI and so you're buying two things then. So if you've got lots of models, you can change to a slightly cheaper one that achieves the same thing. Probably getting into too much depth now, but if you know if this has got questions for you. And then you've also got, this is a little video of VoiceFlow, which is one of the platforms I'm going to talk about. And then this is the more advanced stuff where you can have proper conversational design. Okay, it's like a decision tree type thing going on. So we start with, what are you looking to do today? Are you looking to search for jobs? Are you looking to ask us a question? And then if they say I'm to search for jobs, then the next question along is obviously about, trying to find out what type of job are you looking to see, that type of thing, So this conversational design is really what a sophisticated chatbot can do. You don't necessarily need that with like the example that I've showed you, and I'm going to show you another example of Dante, hopefully when it's working better. When you've got this FAQ bot, you sort of just need to be able to go, hey, I'm this bot, I'm going to give a welcome message. Have you got a question for me? And it will just do its best to answer the questions. So you're not it's just a sort of back and forth on questions, which is fine for this FAQ, frequently asked questions type scenario that I'm throwing out here today. However, I'm also going to give you some ideas of stuff tasks you might want chatbots to do in the future. We'll cover that at the end. And actually, that would definitely need this type of conversational design. Hopefully that makes sense, guys. So platforms to consider. So, Dante is a basic one I've looked at, really easy to get up and running with. But, feel free to check that out. They do seem pretty good. I've not seen that error that I've seen today before. And then BotPress and VoiceFlow, these are more sophisticated ones that I've spent some time looking at in good detail. So, and they do seem to come quite highly recommended within the industry. So these are chatbots that can be deployed for any type of use case, whether you're selling software, whether you're selling mugs, whether you're doing help desk support for IT or whatever it could be, whether you want to put a chatbot on for the council so people can report potholes. These are sort of multi-dimensional. You can sort of deploy them to any type of function. Now, I'm going to talk about the lifetime deals in a second. I'll talk on lifetime deals. So let me just click on that. So because your requirements might not be super sophisticated initially, then I also wanted to mention this here. I'm not on a retainer from these guys, but we routinely buy software from their service, these types of marketplace. And what they offer is a lifetime deal. So in the case of this, that you can build and automate your own chatbots, and it's $69. That's it. That's all you pay, $69 for life. So you could go check that out. And they've got a few chatbots on here already. They put deals on, and they last 30 days or so, and then other things come through. So some chatbots are doing different types of things. But actually, a lot of what we're talking about is like a customer support type chatbot would actually solve that problem. So if your budget is tight and your requirements are quite simple, then you might want to explore this type of option as well. Because if you're looking at BotPress or VoiceFlow, you're going to need some expertise. Yeah, if you're looking, because these are the conversational design type options. And if you're looking at those types of, you need expertise, either in-house or you're going to need to find freelance support. And then I've got a few recruitment specific and HR specific chatbots, which you can look up as well. They're very, very good, but they are enterprise specific. And they even say that. So what we see, as I said at the start of today, we see providers at that top end who are trying to, help Tesco manage their 100,000 job seekers who hit their career site every day. And obviously Tesco can afford to spend money on that because they've got such a big challenge there that putting a chatbot in place has a potential big return on investment. Us guys working at the smaller end of the spectrum might struggle to afford these types of solutions, but have a look at them. They are interesting to see what's possible as well. Okay, I'm going to throw out a quick survey. I did mention at the start of the day that this session is sponsored by our friends at Personio. So this is why I throw out my just quick question to see if any of you are in the world where you're starting to think about HR software, look at HR software, and maybe you can let us know if you are, or if you're a hireful customer and you'd like to hear more about the Personio hireful integration, then tick that box as well and we can let you know. I will keep that on screen for another 10 seconds or so, and then we will jump straight back into the session, guys. 3, 2, 1. So thank you for that. Let me close that down and we are back. You should be seeing my screen again. Okay, so next up, building a friendly, engaging chatbot experience. So I just had a few little ideas here, and we don't have a huge amount of time for this session, but a few little things that we've been thinking about here that I wanted to sort of pass on and share with you. Firstly, the name of your chatbot. It seems that a good common trend is this non-gender specific name like Ali or Sam, and I quite get along with that. I think it's pretty safe. It's not likely to offend anyone, hopefully. You could also, I did think, this is my own independent thinking, think about the history of your organization. If you're Lloyd's Bank, then maybe your chatbot should be called Lloyd or something, or if you're Ford Motor Company, maybe it's called Henry or something. Only thing I did think about this as well is, if you think about the history of who founded this organization, if it was a while back, chances are it was probably a man, probably a white man or whatever. So it's not the most, the only thing I thought about, because a chatbot in this case is explaining and explaining and explaining, maybe giving it a male name isn't the best thing. There's a bit too much mansplaining in the world anyway. So I would probably try and go with a female name or try and go with something non-gender specific would be my options. But I do like the idea of thinking about your organization, and you'll know better than me, is there a name that might resonate better and that people would like throughout the organization and would, work well with us? And obviously, when you think about naming and the whole thing, I think it's worth mentioning that, we're talking about chatbots being helpful, friendly, and, if they can, my view, it's about your tone of voice. But I like to think with chatbots, they can be a little bit of fun thrown in. They can have a few little surprises that sort of, make people smile. Let me just see if I can try something. I don't know if this will work, actually. Meteorite. I can't spell meteorite, no. Let's see, right, let me just get that. I did say the other day on my mobile phone, this might not work on yeah, there we go, look, the meteorite comes over and the screen will shake in a second. That's just Google hiding these stuff they call like Easter eggs or whatever. So let me just refresh, it'll happen again. I only did that yesterday because I was looking for a meteorite thing and it just happened to me on my phone. That made me smile and go, ooh, that's quite cool and quite fun. Okay, so if you type meteorite into Google, it does that. I didn't know it does that. So it might be that you leave a few hidden little things in your chatbot, assuming they're nice and safe, that you think, okay, great, let's put in a little bit of fun if it is possible. Okay, think about the opening message. So something short and sweet. We don't want something that waffles on forever. That's not what the chatbot wants to deliver as its welcoming message. So careers bot example, hi, I'm, let's say, Ali. I'm an AI assistant to the recruitment team. I think it's important you say, this isn't live chat. So you want to be open and honest about that to start off with, saying, I'm a digital assistant, I'm an AI assistant, I'm an AI chatbot, and I assist the recruitment team, whatever. I can help answer questions you have about working at so-and-so, yeah? Or maybe it's saying, I can help you find jobs and answer questions. What would you like to do next? Have you got a question you'd like to ask me? Yeah, so there we go. Nice and easy one to start off with. You can also A/B test. So you can have several messages, hopefully. You don't think you can do this with a simple tool like Dante, but you can do this with VoiceFlow and BotPress, those more sophisticated tools. You can have multiple messages and you sort of drop them in routinely and see which one seems to get the best engagement. And then maybe you go, and I would avoid going with one. I'd pick out 2 or 3. So if people keep coming back to the career site, they get a slightly different experience each time, hopefully. Okay. Onboarding bot example, sort of similar. I'm here to answer questions you have like this. So feel free to ask me. If I don't know the answer, I'll get your question directed to someone human who can help. So that's pretty simple. And then handling the I don't knows. This is something you also need to think about as part of your experience. What's going to happen when your chatbot hits an area where it doesn't know? How does it manage that? Does it say, hey, I don't know the answer to that. Do you want to rephrase the question or perhaps ask an alternative question? That might be what you put with the job board with a careers bot. However, if it's like your employees, you might want to do a bit better than that. You might say, I don't know the answer to that. Did you want to try rephrasing it? Or would you like me to contact someone who can get back to you with an answer? Yeah, a human, obviously. And as I mentioned about variety, about not having the same question every time, we want to avoid that same intro question, have different rotations, have several different follow-up messages. You don't want, imagine someone asks 4 or 5 questions. You don't want it to say after every time they ask a question, you don't want the chatbot to say, did you have anything else you'd like to ask me? Did you have anything else you'd like to ask me? Because it would just seem a little bit repetitive, yeah? I've also seen chatbots who constantly seek feedback. They give you the answer to the question, say, how was that? Was that a good answer? And it's like every time it gets quite annoying. Yeah. So you're trying to resemble as best you can a nice, friendly, human-like interaction. And humans, unless you find the wrong human in your life, they're typically not asking for feedback every 30 seconds, unless you've got like a 3-year-old or something. Don't always ask feedback on every question. So like, how would you rate the answer I gave? You know, maybe you do that after, like, once you've had like 3 or 4 back and forths, maybe it's like, okay, great. By the way, how are you finding your chatbot experience today? And if maybe a thumbs up and a thumbs down, nice and simple. You ask it once and once only per conversation. Okay, so there's a few simple ideas on that, guys. Now I'm going to go back live into Dante and show you like how to gather the data you need to train your chatbot. So I'm going to show you voice forms as well, not voice flow. Voice flow is the chatbot platform we're looking at. But let me just bring back up our friend Dante over here. Let me just, it's not playing nicely for me today. There we go, fine. So here's Dante. We looked at the careers bot, which wasn't very successful. Something was probably going on with it, I suspect. Now let's have a look at another one I've got here, the HR bot. So what we've done with the HR bot, here you can see some sort of branding options. I can change the color and things like this. So I can upload a hireful logo. I can change the branding colors to hireful's colors instead of black and white. Over here, I can add or remove chatbot content. And then what I've done simply here is I've loaded in a few HR policies, my employee handbook. The employee handbook's quite a detailed document. It's like 120 pages or so. So you can imagine, you give that out to an employee. This is exactly why you should have a chatbot, because no one reads, well, people do read the employee handbook, but when they need to remind themselves of something, how do I do this? Oh, it's in the handbook. Let me just, where in the handbook? That's a pain. So the chatbot's going to do much better than that. He says hopefully. So these are all documents, okay? But if you were going for an exercise with your HR team, you might say, okay, well, what other questions do we get asked that are outside of these policies and handbooks? Yeah. And you could argue that, well, if you get a lot of questions, maybe they should be in the handbook, which I think would make good sense. But when you come to the careers bot, let me just flip across to that, you don't have as many documents and policies. You might just say, here's our Hireful Careers website. I could also direct in here, I could add in the Hireful website, add another link. I can just go to, bring through the Hireful website, hireful.com. If there's anything that's publicly available on our website, if a candidate asks, a job seeker asks a question, then that's perfectly acceptable. So let me just go, I want to upload, but I should do it. Oh, I'll put it in the wrong thing. Put it in the thing. Hold on a second. There we go. Upload. Is that going to do it? No. Now it's going for me to upload. Right, I've done this wrong. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to be doing. Speak this. Right. Not very friendly. It will get there anyway. I haven't done it the right way. But that's, I think I just put it in here, do I? No, that isn't what I do. So ignore me, guys. Right, I'm getting distracted. It's a while since I've done this. I'm going to have one last go. Add another link. Rid of that. Right. Yeah, it's not playing nice. I can't see how to do it. So ignore that. But you can add your website in. You can figure out how to do it. I seem to have had a bit of a moment on it. And anything on your website, it seems perfectly reasonable to train your chatbot on, because that's content that you've put out there that's fairly safe. It is, your position on a bunch of stuff. It says, oh, what does the company do? It can use content from the website, obviously. But that's not really going to cover off all the questions candidates would have, like what's your situation on hybrid working? How would I be able to park my car at your Bournemouth office or something? So there's lots and lots of questions people might have, and you could sort of build them up over time. But you could also go out, and we've got one of the things I'll share with you after today is to all everyone who's watching this and everyone who's signed up but didn't watch it. We've got a series of questions that we've built out, and we're building them onto what we call onto this tool called VoiceForm, because our vision is, if you're particularly for the careers bot, there's lots of questions that you're going to need to ask your managers. Yeah, you're going to want to find about information about what each department does. What's so good about working in each department. You're going to want to find out information about learning and development, about your recruitment process. So we're building out little mini forms, maybe 10, 12 questions each, like 10, 12 questions on your recruitment process. That will go to the recruitment department. 10, 12 questions maybe on learning and development. And our customers will select the questions they think are useful for candidates. So maybe 5 or 6 of those, send them across to the learning and development manager. And this is the difference. We know people are busy. And also we know the chatbot doesn't need perfectly crafted content, because we're not writing FAQs to fit on our website like you would see on the FAQs page, hireful careers. Yeah, the FAQs that were there. We're not writing, when we wrote these, we had to be, word perfect. Our marketing team would read over them, make sure we've explained it perfectly, etc., etc. We don't need to do that with a chatbot. And because we don't, we can use voice. So on any question here, I can type an answer. What does your department do? Imagine you send this out to each of your heads of department. So look, I've got 6 questions, 12 questions I just need you to do. They can hit record. They can say, right, so my department looks after the product, which means this. They can stop. They can play that back, make sure they're happy with it. You get to see a transcript then, and then you can look through that transcript and go, and edit it. Oh, I don't like the way you frame that, so that's a problem, but we'll change that. But for the most part, you go, yeah, it's all good. And that document can be added into your data set, and away you go. And we've just got a series of questions around how would you describe your management style? How do you support professional development of your team members? Sort of these types of questions that might be interesting that people might ask. So yeah, that's VoiceForm. We quite like voice as a way of quickly, efficiently gathering this information. So when we would send that out, we're in the process of doing this ourselves. When we send this out to our managers, we will say, look, feel free to type stuff in, but to be honest, we feel your time is better served just hitting record and answering the question like you would if a candidate asked it to you in an interview or something, or on a briefing call. So that's a few ideas about gathering information. So you need it documented, or you need it on the website. And it doesn't need to be formatted too efficiently. The chatbots will just learn. They'll just know that's the question, that's the answer. I understand that. Fine, I've learned that. And you can then test it out. Knowing the questions you fed it, you can say like, oh, what's it like? What's the main challenges what's the main benefits of working, or even our marketing team, if that was one of your questions, and it will be able to tell you. Okay. And then moving on to analysing your chatbot's performance, a few things here. So I wanted to keep this fairly simple. Number of conversations. Are people using your chatbot? That's the key one for you, because, you put a bit of time and effort into it. Your colleagues want to know, okay, how's that going? You go, well, look, we have this many conversations per day. We're serving this many people per week. That's the key thing. Average session duration. This will tell you like whether, the experience is good. How many messages go back and forth? Does that seem to be, people seem to be engaged with it. Obviously, response time. If you're using the right platform, if you use certain LLMs, so different types of AI might respond faster or slower, but large part, they're all fairly efficient. Drop-off rate. This will give you an example. This will tell you whether, the experience is bad. Perhaps before people get to the thumbs up, thumbs down piece, because they dropped off, they won't get to your user satisfaction. But one of the things I thought about is if you run this internally, like the HR employee bot, you can actually circulate that round to as a survey to your staff to say, hey, what did you think? Have you had a chance to use the bot? What was your experience? So you can ask your employees what they think. Okay, and appreciate we're just running over time. So a couple of things to think about. Thinking about chatbots then integrated into your software? Because what we've covered today is, interesting, hopefully, but the future potential of the chatbots integrated into your HR and recruitment systems is, much more powerful. So this will take us about 3 or 4 minutes to walk through. So if we take the employee HR bot, at the moment, with our training data, it might ask us, what's the policy on this, or how do I request this, or what should I do if it was integrated with your HR software, it could answer a lot more questions, a lot more powerfully. Can I see a copy of my most recent review document? And you might say, look, well, employees can access that via the HR software. They can, but do they? And if it's easy, they just got a chatbot to tell them, instead of where do I go, how do I do it? Can you go get that for me and tell me? Yeah. How much holiday do I have left? How many sickness days have I had this year? Anything they want to know, what's my salary? How much does that break down to? They can just use this chatbot. So I think more HR software companies will undoubtedly use your chatbot. And it could be that all the extra content that you build, and if you've organized your content by doing some of the projects we spoke about today, could be you just take that content and put it in your HR system to help the chatbot, if you see what I mean. So the chatbot can answer questions about what's known in the HR software, like how many days holiday you have, but what's also been added, such as, what's it like to work here, or what's this and that and the other. And it's got like an FAQs document to supplement its content. And then if we look at an applicant tracking system, so the careers bot can, the careers bot can go so far, but if it's your ATS, some of the things you might hand off to your chatbot would work like a PA to your recruitment department. Might be things such as, okay, well, can you go, so you might just change the status of a candidate, and that would request a chatbot to go and see if this perhaps very strong applicant who lives miles away is open to relocating. Maybe there's missing piece of information, and that might happen automatically. So if someone comes into the system and you don't have their notice period address, whatever, maybe the chatbot just reaches out to them and says, hey, thanks for applying for the role over here. Just got 2 or 3 things we seem to be missing from your application. Do you mind if I gather them from you now? And it would just, so you then, when you're a recruiter, you've got full information there available to you. And maybe little tasks like, gathering references, that type of thing. Yeah, because the chatbot will also know your reference gathering policy, don't forget. So if someone says, oh, can I put my uncle down as a reference, the chatbot will be able to answer that for you. Yeah, and maybe take away that task. So certain tasks that are not high value, pretty simple, that don't need persuasion and wonderful experience that you guys have, then the chatbot can pick up some of those things. And in some cases, like the missing information and stuff, we're probably like ruling people out without, getting all the information in some cases, because we haven't got the time. Yeah, and a check-in 3 months later of any applicant who declines an offer. So that probably doesn't happen in all organizations or many organizations. Someone declines an offer, it's worth just checking back to them in 3 months. How's it going? Yeah, that could be a chatbot doing that, just automated. Hey, Tony, I'm an AI chatbot. Tony asked me to reach out to you just in case this. Hopefully things are working out. But if you're not, I know Tony would be keen to have a chat with you. And just say, yeah, it's working out, or actually, no, might be open to that. Okay, so that's pretty much just a little bit on the future, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that session. I am going to share, obviously, all the notes and all the links to the platforms and stuff like that. We're also going to share out these questions that we've got that we're building through for the careers bot. So if you're thinking of going live on one of these projects, thank you for the little emoji. If you're thinking of going live on these projects, then reach out to us. Reach out to me. I'd love to be talking to you, because I just want to speak to people who are going through this process. We're keen to understand what people are trying to do, how they're going about it, and if I can help. Obviously, I don't charge my time. I'm not a consultant. I'll happily give you any advice or help I can. Okay, that's the session, guys. Thank you for your time. I haven't seen too many questions, but I appreciate. Let me know what you think on the survey at the end. That'd be great. And good luck with your chatbot project. All right, thanks, guys.